30 years ago, a new music burst out of New York's black and gay clubs. A soundtrack for the 70s. This new urban pop may have been created by male producers, but it was fronted by women. And what women? With what front? Let's meet the Queens of Disco. The Queen of Survival.
I've had to survive a lot of personal anguish in my life, and I've done that.
The Reluctant Queen.
I think she regretted it because it was a little too sexy.
The Warrior Queen.
If it wasn't for disco, I wouldn't be sitting here.
The Gay Queen.
So Sylvester, thought you were a woman.
The Fiery Queen.
I couldn't be in the background, I had to be in front.
And the Queen of Reinvention.
She knew she was going to be a big star, but the rest of the world just didn't know it.
It was the 1970s, the Please Me decade. Party time with a brand new soundtrack.
People were just burning the candle at both ends. People thought the party would never stop, the music would never stop, the record never stops, and so it was a non-stop party.
Everyone wanted to be happy, and that dancing was good, made you happy.
It certainly was the time to shout out who you are and what you wanted to be.
So every disco, we'd all be up on the dance floor and we danced around the handbags.
We are family. Women's lib was gaining ground among black women.
They could sing sexier songs than men could sing.
No, there was no sampling in those days, no computers. It was the real deal. So you actually had to be a great singer.
A lot of divas were born out of disco.
After the struggles of the 60s, gay men in New York felt free to come out and party for the first time.
I just remember getting up on the dance floor and basically just showing off.
There is an affinity between out gay men and successful black women because we've had to swim upstream of the same stereotypes most of our life and had the same enemies and the same joys.
We are family. It was a new world with new stars. Step forward our first queen, disco's great survivor. New York, September 2005. And our first queen of disco is about to be inducted into the Dance Music Hall of Fame. This is Gloria Gaynor, the woman who gave disco its greatest anthem. But I Will Survive also sums up the life of the woman who sings it. Gloria Fowles, as she then was born in New Jersey in 1947. Her mom, Queenie Mae, had to bring up all 7 children on her own after their father left before Gloria was even born. It was a poor but religious family, and young Gloria started singing in the church choir.
I actually feel that it was a divine appointment that God looked down on me and said, Gloria, you have to sing.
Almost all black female singers of that generation sang in church.
There's a certain kind of feeling that you get from gospel music. When you praise God, there's a feeling that you bring that energy in.
Gloria was very close to her mother, so she was devastated when Queenie died. She turned to the church for comfort.
God has been there for her. He's been her strength. As she coped with all of the difficulties in her life, I'm pretty sure she's able to cope through her faith.
Now, Gloria also had to earn a living. So she used what she saw as her God-given talent, working as a session singer and on the cabaret circuit. Her reputation grew, and in the early 70s, she was signed by major label MGM. They teamed her up with a producer who was looking for a great voice to go with a new idea.
Something that sounded like it cost $1 million to make.
Tom Moulton had worked as a club DJ. Now that discotheques were springing up everywhere, Tom knew what clubbers wanted. In 1974, Never Can Say Goodbye became the first extended mix record.
Things that people who were going to these clubs wanting to hear were tracks that went on for 8 minutes or 10 minutes, because when you had something like that, you could really lose yourself in the music.
All the DJs seemed to jump on it. That sort of created a phenomenon.
But Gloria herself had reservations about this new way of doing things.
My ego was tapped because it seemed to me that he only used the music to elongate the record instead of using more of my vocal.
She listened to the whole thing and she said, "I don't sing much."
Gloria apparently turned around to Tom and said, "Well, what do I do when we're performing this record?" And Tom says,
"Well, I guess you have to start dancing a little too."
But the formula worked. Never Can Say Goodbye was the first disco record to cross over into the pop charts. America's disco DJs crowned Gloria the first official queen of disco. She was riding high. Then, in 1978, disaster struck.
I fell backwards over a monitor. I'd ruptured a disc in that fall. Woke up the next morning paralyzed from the waist down.
She needed emergency surgery on her spine. Doctors told her she might never walk again, and she spent the next 4 months in hospital.
People around in the business were thinking that I was finished. Saying that the queen is dead and things like that was probably the lowest ebb in my career, because I never expected that. I expected that they would support me.
Meanwhile, songwriter Dino Vicaris was working with producer Freddie Perrin on a new song.
I had no idea who was going to sing it, except that I remember telling Freddie, "The next diva that comes our way, this is the tune we're going to do on her."
Ill as she was, as soon as she read the lyrics, Gloria knew it was the song for her.
I've had to survive a lot of personal anguish in my life. My mother passed away, my sister passed away, two of my brothers passed away from cancer and different. My sister was murdered. The next thing I did was I Will Survive. And I suppose that all of that helped me to sing I Will Survive with great conviction.
At first I was afraid, I was petrified, kept thinking I could never live without you by my side.
Even in this famous video, Gloria's back is still in a brace.
And I grew strong, and I learned how to get along, and so you're back.
And after recording it, she went straight back into hospital. She was convinced the song should be a hit, but the record company had other ideas.
I Will Survive was put by the record company on the B side of the record. It wasn't considered strong enough for the release.
Could have gotten lost, but somebody decided to listen to that B side in New York and flipped the record, and it took off. People liked it. People loved it.
The company didn't believe in it, but Gloria did.
You put I Will Survive on, and that sort of, I don't know, it always uplifts you, really.
Gay men particularly took it as just an anthem for the community as a whole.
Women's liberation was kind of surfacing, and that was like a proclamation to all women.
My 3 kids go, "Oh, your song's on, Mum," you know. Sorry, Gloria, I know it's yours as well, but...
No matter what happens in my life and to me, I will overcome it, I will survive. And to be able to get out on a dance floor and say, here I am, this is me, no matter what has gone on in my life, I'm here. I will fight for who I am. I think it's an anthem for everyone.
I will survive. Oh, as long as I know how to love, I know I'll still alive.
The song celebrates the tenacity of the human spirit. That's anybody, anywhere. I can't tell you what a blessing this song has been to me.
I Will Survive has taken on a life of its own. It's been re-released countless times and covered by over 200 different artists. Gloria continues to perform around the world, but none of her later records ever topped I Will Survive.
Will you survive? Oh, I'm so glad to hear that.
Today, she's gone back to her gospel roots, but she does pop out to collect the odd award.
Can't really separate the success of my career from I Will Survive. But the way that I Will Survive has been able to stand the test of time and carry my career.
To accept the award for I Will Survive.
I don't feel cheated. I don't feel at a loss. It would have been nice.
Miss Gloria Gaynor!
But it's wonderful to have this song.
Thank you so much, all of you, for your support.
New York was the birthplace of disco in the 1970s. It was the city every would-be queen of disco wanted to conquer. The underground club scene was thriving. Even though the city had fallen on hard times.
Up in Harlem, down on Broadway. New York was always a tough place.
Every block was taken over by drug dealers.
You're the heart and soul of New York City.
We had police strikes, we had garbage strikes. At every level, the city was really being challenged. And that challenge led to a lot of need for freedom and for self-expression.
There was, without a doubt, a buzz on the streets of New York. It was alive.
There was this very heady sense of possibility that you really could just reinvent yourself and be anything and do anything and do it all night long.
And disco brought everyone together.
So you had this real interesting, very New York kind of mix of black and gay dance aesthetics, all mixing together.
The whole theme was about the endless partying.
Our next queen also came from a gospel background to create a succession of sexy secular anthems.
It was racy, making love to the microphone. It's all going off.
But was she too sexy for her own good?
She kind of regretted it because it was a little too sexy.
Donna Summer was born-again Christian, and yet she made her fame singing a song that was basically her simulating an orgasm.
Enter the reluctant queen.
Jesus said, I did not come to call the righteous.
Like Gloria Gaynor, the young Donna Summer was born into a deeply religious community, this time in Boston in 1948. She also sang in a church as a child and believed her voice was a gift from God. But when Donna was 16, the close-knit community was rocked by a murder.
She's the only eyewitness. The police show up and they force her to testify. And she begins to get these death threats. And she freaks out.
Donna fled to New York. It was 1968, the summer of love.
This is the dawning of the age of Aquarius.
After growing up in this restricted Christian neighborhood, she's suddenly thrust alone into the world of hippy-dippy New York City, and she is ecstatic. I mean, she feels free for the first time in her life.
Donna auditioned for a new European production of the risque musical Hair. She was successful and spent the next 7 years in Germany. There, she teamed up with a producer who was to revolutionize the sound of disco with his synthesizer.
Love to Love You Baby started as a little bit of a joke. She came up with the title Love to Love You Baby, and she said, why don't we do a song? I threw everybody out, dimmed the lights so she couldn't see me and I could barely see her, and that's when she did it.